Hey, this is Mark, and today I have this poor Note 5 that is here for rush data recovery. So I've already soldered on a wire just to run it off DC power supply and see what it does. And it just kind of hangs at 170 milliamps while I'm prompting it to boot, and then drops back to zero. It doesn't really do anything. No, I have no clue what it was doing um, before it was worked on, but that's what it's doing now. So I started looking over the board, um, and I can see that they've replaced this MPBO2 chip, which it provides some voltage. Like, it's a power supply. I think it provides some image voltages, but the phone will boot without that. So for a phone that wasn't booting, that never needed to be replaced. And then the PMIC has been replaced, which, sometimes they go bad in these devices and they do need to be replaced. And it looks like maybe the person did an okay job replacing that PMIC, maybe. Um, but then you flip the phone over, and yeah, we got giant solder balls squeezing out from underneath the RAM and memory there. Few big solder balls. We have some solder squeezing out from the CPU too. You can see that it's kind of stuck to the edge of the CPU there, but that's where it came from. So just like a whole mess here. Uh, why would you do this? Like, reball your chip with something lower temperature and put it on. Don't. How can you expect a phone to ever boot? Like, why even waste a chip if you're just going to do this to the other side of the board? Just please don't do that. Anyone out there watching this that wants to work on some Samsungs, practice on some boards. They don't like as much heat as iPhones, so do some practice. In this case, we're going to be okay because I can take that chip off and read the data directly, which is what I'm going to do. But, please don't do this to phones, guys. Come on. This is not okay. Somebody was really wanted their data. It's not cool to do this. So the rest of this video is going to be pretty boring. Just another pulling the chip off and reballing it. I just felt like the world could use a PSA of don't do this to your phones, please. Don't do this to your customers' phones. Don't do this to data phones. All right. So I've gotten a new mic and camera, and hopefully I have the sound settings correct on the mic with the noise reduction for the hot air. I don't know. I was having some problems with it. Let me know if it still sounds kind of choppy. right. Hello to Uganda. Thanks for watching. What time of day is it in Uganda right now? It is 12:23 a.m. here in Florida. So I imagine it's sometime in the early morning, maybe, in Uganda. All right, so we've gotten all the solder that was left on the chip kind of knocked down, cut the glue off, being careful not to scrape the chip. Maybe scrape it a little bit, but not much. So these Note 5, Samsung S6, and anything earlier than that are almost always recoverable. There's a small percentage that are not recoverable just because the chip itself is what was the root cause of the failure in the phone. Most of them are recoverable. I like to get the phone working if I can, but when I see stuff like in this one, I'm not going to put any time into that at all. I'm going to go straight to doing the chip off data recovery, which pretty straightforward process. Take the chip off, put it in the reader, copy all the files off it. As long as the chip hasn't failed, it's going to go fine. So we just got to take the chip off, reball it, put it in the reader. Done. There we go. Now that we got all the pads tinned, nothing oxidized, we can clean everything off, throw it in the stencil, get this sucker reballed. see. Somebody's asking, what software do I use to read the chip? So, um, in general, like once I've acquired an image, I it depends on what kind of mood I'm in. I will either a lot of times, if my laptop's already booted up into Windows, I'll just use Windows um, and use a little app called HDD raw copy to make the image. And then I'll use Autopsy, which is an open source data forensics program. I'll use that to process the data and load the image and pull the data out. Everything's a Linux file system, so if the laptop's turned off when I go to it, I'll boot it up into Linux and then just make an image using DD and Linux and run some scripts I've written to pull data. And then to acquire the image, though, with these particular chips, is a little more difficult. You can get like really cheap readers for the old eMMCs, but for these type of UFS chips, the only reader that, well, at least the only one that was out when I was looking, was the DediProg New Prog hardware. And that, for the socket and the thing to read it, runs about $1,000. So it's kind of expensive to get started doing it. Probably only want to do that if you expect to see a lot of S6 and Note 5, because those are the only phones with these chips in them. Looks like my stencil slid a little bit on that chip, but we should still be okay. This one has a little bit of trash in it. That ball stuck down. Get in there. So if anybody watching this has everything they need, all the skills they need to take the chip off and reball it and get it ready for a read, but doesn't want to drop the cash on getting the uh, this guy, which is what actually gets you the image. So yeah, if you don't want to invest in that, you can go on our website and request an estimate just for me to read your S6 or Note 5 chip, and I'll get for a much cheaper price than data recovery, I'll just send you the image off the chip once it's out. But yeah, the only thing left to do now is just see if this thing, if I can read it. Let's see if I can read it. I don't have my laptop hooked up to the streaming stuff, so I can't really easily show you if it reads. But we're gonna give it a test anyways. Now, I mentioned earlier I was talking about how sometimes I'll either use Windows-based tools or Linux, depending on the situation. With these, because I have to use this reader, I have to use their software to do it, and they only make software for Windows. So I've always got to, I always have to load this up in Windows, and then I just capture the image and pull the files off that I need and run a few scripts through Autopsy to get all the data out in a readable format. Let's see. It does take a while to get everything fired up. Maybe I can show the laptop. Let's see if this is going to work. I don't know. Probably won't be able to make this out. But it's reading the chip right now. When the software starts up, it initializes the programmer and tries to read the chip, and it'll throw an error if it's not able to, but it hasn't thrown an error, so that usually means that it's pretty good, that it's good to go. So now we just click read IC and put in the memory range we want to save from. We want to save the entire thing. The ticket number in there as the image name. And then wait about 20 minutes and start processing the image using Autopsy. So not much exciting stuff that I can show from this point on, as if reballing a chip was exciting. This little short stream was really just to get a video out there that's a PSA to people working on Samsungs to please don't do that to them. So have a good night, guys. Thanks for watching.